Hello, I have a truth dagger for you, and I have been so touched by the presence of God this morning. I couldn't wait to hop on. Normally I get on a little bit later, but I really feel like the Lord just wants a few people to hear this morning. I'm going to read from Hebrews chapter 4, and I'm going to read verse 15. I'll start in verse 14, and I'm going to read for you. Since this is Hebrews 4, 14 and 15, and I'm fumbling over my words because the presence of God is so strong right now in my little room here. Since then, we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. Let us hold fast our confession. And then verse 15 says, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who is in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin." And here, verse 16 is where I want to go today. "Let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need." And here's what I want to say to you. Here is your truth dagger today. And this is probably more of a identity thing than it is anything else. But unless you know that you can stand boldly before your Father without shame, with your head held high, Scripture says that He is faithful to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. So we can stand before Him, nothing to prove, nothing to hide. We can go boldly before Him. We are never going to be able to fulfill the calling that He has on us until we know that we can stand boldly before Him as our Father. You know, I teach evangelism as well at my church and at the Bible college through my church, and I love my students so much. And one of the things that we teach is that you'll never know, like the righteous are as bold as lions, but you're not going to know how bold you are out on the streets or in your neighborhood or with your neighbors or at the shops. You'll never know until you know the love of the Father for you. And one of the things that I teach them, you know, the disciples, we just finished watching The Chosen. We rewatched all of season 1 and then watched the amazing, brilliant, see the first episode of season 2, and love watching the life of the disciples, you know, and with their artistic liberty, but they try to follow the Bible. It just comes alive to you. The fishermen dropped everything to follow Jesus. Scripture says Jesus looked at them and He said, "Come and follow me." And it says immediately they dropped everything to follow Jesus. And so I want two things. I want to challenge you to think about that. And you may have heard me say this before. What is it about Jesus? What is it about Jesus that made you drop everything to follow Him? And then I want you to think about this. Jesus did everything. If you read all of Hebrews, and specifically Hebrews chapter 4 here, it just talks about all the things that Jesus went through on our behalf. And He fulfilled the requirements of the old covenant. He fulfilled the requirements of the law so that He could live inside of you and inside of me. And for that reason, there is no shame, there is no guilt, there is no condemnation, and we can stand boldly before Him. So I want to encourage you today, this evening for those of my friends in America and other countries, this morning for the Aussies, let's just really ask Him to come alive to us, make that revelation come alive to us. What does it mean that we now have the right to come boldly before His throne to ask for help in time of need? I'll leave you with this. A few years ago, and if you've read my book, Free Indeed, you would have read about this, but a few years ago I was at a conference. It was a prophetic conference, and I kept having dreams and visions and encounters where I was at the feet of Jesus, and I I couldn't see past the hem of his robe, and I won't go into all the details, but I finally, after days and days of this, I knew the Lord was speaking to me, and all I could think about was the woman with the issue of blood, and how she had gone to Jesus and, reached through the crowd. You may know the story. She had issues. She was an outcast. She felt left out. She reached through the crowd to touch the hem of his robe, and she was healed. He looked at her and said, "Daughter, your faith has made you well," and she was healed. And so I thought that's what I kept thinking when I'd have these visions and dreams of me reaching out and like at the feet of Jesus. And I immediately began to kind of beat myself up and think, God, what are you trying to teach me? Am I lacking faith? Is something happening? And something. Sorry, I'm getting messages during my live feed. Forgot to put my phone in Do Not Disturb. And God spoke to me very clearly, and he said, no. He said, you've got plenty of faith. He was like, I want you to get up, and I want you to face me, and I want you to look at me as a child of God and stop seeing yourself as a woman with an issue. And I feel like that's a word for some of you. Stop looking at yourself as a person with an issue. You're a child of God, and Christ lives inside of you. You've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer you that lives, but it's Christ that lives inside of you. And so I just want to encourage you with that today. Because of that, you can stand up. You can look at him. You can go boldly to the throne of grace. Let him love on you there. And I encourage you to read Hebrews chapter 4 today. So be blessed with that.